Welcome, Antonio. I personally am very honoured to have you with us today. And on behalf of everybody here, thank you so much for agreeing to this keynote presentation. Just before we begin, I just wanted to let everybody know how I know Antonio. 5 years ago, I was in Mexico at an international conference, and Antonio was a guest presenter where at the University of the Americas in Puebla, where he presented his short art film. Antonio was professor in fine arts at the university, and during the conference they invited him to come and show his short film, and that is actually when we met. And for 5 years we have stayed in touch. We have lots of academic things in common, but also just in terms of a friendship. I also thank Antonio immensely, because while I was there, he took me to all of these places I wouldn't have known about, which really fed and enriched my PhD. So thank you, Antonio. We are going to see if the technology is working. So you may now share your screen.
You want me to share it now?
And then if I've got to do, yes, please. And I'll see what happens in the room, and I might have to do something.
Well, before, I just wanted to thank you for the invitation. I am very pleased to be doing this here and being in Mexico now and getting in touch with all the world, especially with New Zealand, place that I will love to see sometime, yes, to visit sometime. And shall we start?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
See the screen now, right?
Yes.
So I made this.
Remove myself.
I got these pictures to make more clear what I'm going to talk about, and I call this presentation "From Crowned Nuns to Vampire Nuns," because it is a long process that I follow in order to get to the movie that we are going to watch afterwards. And as I think you mentioned, or it was written, I am formerly a painter, but this project took me to filmmaking. So this is why I want to show step by step what happened. There's a museum in the city of Puebla where they keep most of the colonial art. That's of course the Catholic religious art from the 15th to the 18th century. And it used to be a convent as well, a non-convent, and they kept most of the art in this museum, which is called the Museo de Arte Religioso de Santa Mónica. And it's a place that I visit when I was very, very young. Actually, I was 17 the first time, or at least the first time I was there, and make drawings. This is the patio, one of the patios of the convents. As you see, is very, very nice building full of talavera, which is the traditional clay from Puebla. And in that museum, there are many paintings and objects that belonged to the convents. But what interests me more at this time is the portraits of nuns, crowned nuns, that are in that place. I started as a young artist interested in surrealism and rock and roll. I start making drawings inspired in this place, actually made them in the place inside. And this is one of them. As you see, there's also something from my mind. and they are not classical drawings, but more inspired by the place and the paintings and things and objects that I was looking at. Then, after I made this fast sketches on a sketchbook, I made a series of colored pencils. I mean, colored paintings, and a small size. This is one of them. You can see there's a lot of fantasy, but you can also see that there are some nuns already in those early works, as you can see in this one too, like this for example, and this one too. This is not a nun, but it's also a religious image. You can see the baby Jesus a little bit there, and the Sacred Heart of Jesus. Years later, after I moved to New Mexico in the south of the United States, in the city of Santa Fe, I took some printed things with me, and one of them was a card with the image of this Teresa de Jesus Hornet. And then I made a series of small paintings too. This is one of them, ink drawings and wax paint, I think, wax crayons, like this one. Use variations on that image of this famous nun. In 1986, 2 years after that, I was invited to participate in a theater piece, chamber dance opera was called, directed by this friend of mine, Joseph Weber, who was a composer. And in the stage, there were dancers. Joe was playing the piano as well. And I had a play. I was invited to paint on the stage, and I also had a few lines. And the piece was about Sor Maria de Ágreda, which, as some of you probably know, was an illuminated nun that place herself in several locations at the same time, for example, and do other fantastic things. And my role in the play was the confessor, which was interesting. And so I also had a few lines to say, and mainly paint these plastics that hang from the ceiling and representing devils. Showing you all these early works of nuns, you can tell that I was getting very interested in the subject. I was born as a Catholic, and as I was a teenager, I kind of went away from the Catholicism somehow, but interested still in this in the iconography, especially in nuns for some reason. So I went back to Santa Monica Convent, the religious museum, which I think I visited with Kat when she was here. And I made more drawings there. These are some of them. As you can see, the drawing is a little better, as I was getting better from practicing it. I was still very young. I wasn't at the art school yet, but I was working by myself and making all these drawings. You can see the religious nuns, in this one, for example, making this suffering act of lifting a stone with the neck, offering it to God. So these bizarre things that came to my mind. This is the one on the left is a portrait of Santa Rita de Casia, who is represented with a nail on her forehead. Quite strange. After I made these drawings, I decided to make to produce these monoprints in 1991, based on the drawings, as you can see from the previous pencil drawing. The monoprints are made on a flat plate, which is painted with oil and then printed on paper by contact. I made a series of them. This is another one. This is actually the heart of the bishop that after he died, offered to the nuns to keep it in this reliquary. And actually the testament is in the rolled paper in the lower part. And you can see this object in the museum. The heart looks more like a rock now. You know, this is from 17th century. Another work I made is this, the photographer nun. It's funny because I was walking downtown Puebla once, and I was in the main plaza downtown, and there were some couples hugging and kissing in the benches around there. And there was this nun taking pictures. So I made a sketch, and then after the sketch, I made this. It's actually an acrylic drawing on handmade paper from Mexico, on a mate paper. And then in 2011, I decided to start a project, and a specific project based on the nuns, which is called Color the Seat. And it's based in a poem by Sor Juana Inés de la Cruz, the famous nun who was an excellent poet. And I decided to call it like that, the whole project. So the whole project starts with being like a portraiture of portraits of crowned nuns. That was the original project, to do only that. But after I was doing that, I made all these different approaches to the subject in different medias, which are listed in this slide. Territory portraits of holy nuns in Puebla convents, portraits of alternative nuns, Monjapolis, which is the city of nuns, drawing series, visiting the Capuchinas convent of Puebla, the Cage of Nun, which is an installation, Nun of the Month, which is a Facebook album, Planet of Nuns, which is a comic book, Cooking Nuns Club is a performance, same as Sor Antonio Álvarez, same as soccer match between nuns, La Sonora Conventual, and the Vampire Nuns versus the Son of Benito Juárez, which is the short film we're going to look. I'm going to go a little bit through all this now. So the portraiture of portraits of crowned nuns is a series of paintings which are portraits of paintings. So that's why I call them portraits of portraits. So I was using the colonial portraits of crowned nuns as the subjects for my works. This is one of them. This is one of the original paintings. Actually, this one is at the Museo de Santa Mónica in Puebla. And she's Sor Maria de Saint Joseph, and was one of the founders of the convent, actually. Is a very, very serious portrait. I'll show you what I did. So I made this one from that one. Just so you see, I don't I wasn't just copying the paintings, but I was making a new approach, a new version, changing the words and the image a little bit and adding things. One of the things that I added is in some of these cases is the plate in the chest. As you can see, not very well in this picture, but there's a copper plate. It's an etched copper plate, which is after I printed, I collage on the painting itself. This is one of the impressions of the plate, which is in the painting. So before I collage the plate to the painting, I made the addition of the prints. So I made these prints, which also have the subject theme of nuns. In this case, is Santa Rosa de Lima, the first American saint. In the original says is fighting with the devil. It looks more like he's dancing with the devil to me. This is another one. This is an interesting painting. This is not in Puebla. This is in Tepoztlan, where the main museum of colonial art is in Mexico, Tepoztlan, Morelos. And this is my interpretation. So you can see the detail, especially in the crown. The crown is amazing in this painting. You see. So for many of these works, I also designed wooden frames, which I didn't carve myself, but I made the design and work with a carver. And the frames also had to do with the story of the nun. In this case, the nun was from Oaxaca. That's why I used this design from one of the ruins of Mitla in Oaxaca. This is another one. This is Sor María Antonia de la Purísima Concepción. This is also in Tepoztlan, in the state of Mexico, Tepoztlan. You can see the Virgin of Guadalupe in the plate, in the painted plate. The nuns, usually the nuns themselves painted these chest ornaments. And you can also see the baby Jesus. That was very common. They were, in many cases, they would hold a baby Jesus and some flowers. And of course, the crown that is always present. These paintings were done when they begin becoming a nun. So usually a painter made these portraits, so the painting will stay in the family's house when the nun will go to the convent and lock herself up there for the rest of her life. So the family will keep the image of the woman, the daughter usually, in the house as the memory of her. They probably won't see her again in the world. And this is my interpretation. You can see again the Virgin of Guadalupe there. And some other elements that I added kind of freely. This is one more, San María de la Luz del Señor San Joaquín. And I changed it drastically, becoming Passion nun, because it's making reference to the death of Christ. Okay, and here is the printed image from the plate in the chest of the nun. And here is a more strange or stranger nun, because she's never been a nun. Many of you probably know Patti Smith, who is a composer, singer. They say is the grandma of the punk rock. Here is I can go back to the painting, but this is I'm taking her pictures from the cover of her first record. This poet, musician, and singer Patti Smith. This is Horses, her first record, and it's a beautiful portrait made by Robert Mapplethorpe. And always like her music, and I like very much also this portrait. So I decided to took her as the subject and made her into a rock and roll nun here. You know, the baby Jesus is Arthur Rimbaud during his first communion as a boy, made from a picture of him then. And the flowers, you see, they have this electric guitar in the bunch of flowers, and also made a plate. And she's again in the center of the plate with some of her idols, I think, John Cale in the very top, who was original member of Velvet Underground and also producer of her record, first record, the Horses record. To the right, going clockwise, we can see Allen Ginsberg, then well, the poet, the beat poet, and then Bob Dylan, and then Keith Richards from the Rolling Stones, and then John Paul I, one pope that she was also related to somehow. She talks about him in some of her records. And then to the left is William Burroughs, also also from the Beat generation, and then Jimi Hendrix, the Robert Mapplethorpe, the photographer, and Jesus Christ, or to the right of John Cale. And I made also a funerary portrait because they, as I say, they made these portraits of these women that became nuns when they entered the convents, but they also made some portraits of some of them when they die. And this is, I decided to make a funerary portrait of Amy Winehouse, who wasn't a Catholic or wasn't a nun, as you know, but I always admire her music and decided to make this funerary portrait. This is part of the, well, this is she. You probably, all of you probably know her and her music very well. And this is the sketch I made. I was based on a funerary portrait of a nun, which is in the museum of Santa Monica in Puebla. And this is the collage, so you can see a little bit the way I work. I made this collage using her face and the painting, and then there's some lines for the composition. Okay, and another approach was these assemblages, which I call territory portraits of holy nuns in Puebla convents. And I am working with my models are the most famous ones. In this case is the Santa Teresa de Ávila, the Spanish poet and religious woman. And this is not just painting, but has all these elements, and I call them territory because I talk about the biography of the nun, but also the convents that they were founded in Puebla related to that specific person, in this case, Santa Teresa. And there are many details, and every detail has to do with her life or with the convent in Puebla, which was also important. I already mentioned about her. And this one, although it's not that famous, is a nun that didn't become a saint, but was born in Puebla and lived in Puebla and was pretty famous, and is related also to my family somehow. My family kept her corpse for several years in her living room because there was a war from the government against the religion, and the convents were closed for quite a few years. And so that's why I decided to work with the Lily of Puebla. It was her nickname. Sor María de Jesús. This is one of her portraits from the 18th or 17th or 18th century. And then I made some alternative nuns portraits. This is called self-reliquary because I had a surgery in the nose on December 12th, actually, a few years ago. And then I asked the doctor to give me a little piece of the bone of my nose that I took in order to make my nose a little bit more functional. And then I put a little piece of my bone in the center where I collaged this image of the Virgin of Guadalupe. You know, we celebrate the Virgin of Guadalupe on December 12th. It was just a couple of years ago, a couple of days ago, and it's right there in the middle of the head, where the nose is. And there are some other elements that complete the story. This is another painting. This is a technique I developed. I kind of invented what I do is I make a collage with papers on the surface of the picture plane, and then I paint an image with oil after using some wax as base, beeswax. And then after I've painted the image, I go back and carve on the wax so we can see the little things, the little details that have been collaged before. This is Anima of a Nun, so it's a nun and the purgatory on the flames. And this is another one from this lullaby. It's called Lullaby, and it's also collage and painting. So I'm painting on top of the collage elements. And you can see here that also the Sex Pistols are there. Johnny Rotter on the top and Sid Vicious in the lower part, because it was about music, and so I decided to put it there. This is a strange painting of the conjoined twin nuns. This also, this was part. Actually, these characters supposed to be in the second part of the movie we are going to watch, which we hadn't made yet. But for the subjects, for the models for these paintings, were also two rock stars, who are Nina Hagen and Siouxsie Sioux from Siouxsie Sioux and the Banshees. You can see her pictures there. And when I was working on the painting, where I also use glitter in these paintings, in some of these paintings. And this is not a nun. One more painting. of an alternative nun. It's based on a 18th century painting, but it's also making a reference to René Magritte, as you probably some of you guess when we are his painting. This is not a pipe, that many of you probably know. So this is not a nun. This is a painting of a nun. And the nun story. This painting start a new series of watercolors, where I start using holy water to make watercolor. So I call them holy watercolors. And it's strange because I got this magazine, an old magazine from 1959, the cover, a Life in Spanish magazine, that somebody gave it to me. And then in the cover have the picture of Audrey Hepburn, and when announcing this movie, the Nuns story. And I was surprised because the magazine was from 1959, and then I realized that was the time they made that movie, and actually that was the year where I was born. So I made this self-portrait of a baby on the right, painted fully painted on holy watercolor, and collaged the magazine, and added also the crucifix in volume. So that's one of the reasons I made me think that I was a reincarnation of a nun. And this, I also made a series of drawings. This was an installation made with almost 100 drawings, small size drawings, which I made looking at the TV when I was starting to make this soap opera about nuns. Then it was perfect to have that background of nuns in the soap opera. And when I was drawing, so I got this routine of doing that, these drawings at the same time every day, so I can watch the soap opera about nuns and also make my drawings. This is some of them. These are details of some of them. Other non-drawings, I think we have to go a little faster so we have time to watch the movie. These are some other drawings. This is not holy watercolor, this is ink drawings. And then I visit the convent of Puebla because I made friends with the Sister Help, with Hermana Socorro. It's funny to the translation, Sister Help, but her Help is her name. And then she asked me for advice to make a painting. So I get the chance to go into the convent and check how she was making the work, which was fantastic for me. I made some videos also, of course, hidden videos in secret. She's painting. This was an installation for an exhibit, for a group exhibit, which I made, the Caged of Nun. And I used some of the objects I had and some of the images I had been collecting about nuns, which are quite a few. Some details, also Christmas lights are underneath, under the mannequin I used. Some of these objects I also used later in the assemblages. And then there was a project that I made for almost 3 years, which was called the Nun of the Month, and it's a Facebook album. You can look at it. It's in my Facebook, and so I made photographs of nuns in the streets usually, and then I put one of these photographs every month. for 3 years, I think. This is some of them. This is also Sister Help on the left. It was really funny because it was September, the patriotic month in Mexico, and they went out of the convent to buy this large flag, which is quite amazing. And I catch them crossing the street. One more nun of the month. And then I started making this comic book, which I hadn't finished yet, but this was The Planet of None, and it's autobiography also. This is me as a boy that I discovered a painting of a crowned nun, and then I have to finish it. I hadn't finished it. Well, I have made some performance pieces too, and these photographs are interesting because they are in a family album. This is one of my aunts, the sister of my father, dressed up as a nun. She was never a nun, but she dressed up like this for the photographs that my grandmother took and developed and print herself. Quite amazing for those times, for a woman also. And so this comes from, from my family. I think this orientation to be like a nun. And this is a painting that is in Puebla since the 18th century, because came as a gift to her this woman's uncle, who was the bishop in Puebla. This is the one, and she was in Madrid, in Spain, and they sent the painting as a gift for him. But what is really funny is that her name is Antonio Álvarez. Is the same name as mine. So I decided to make a self-portrait of as her. And I start saying that I was reincarnation of a nun. And made this here is the bishop receiving the painting. I am back there in the spirit, back in the 18th century. And I start dressing up as a nun. Here this is the first time I dress as San Antonio Álvarez, and I enter the Cathedral of Puebla. Luckily, I wasn't discovered, and I'm still alive. And this is another performance I made. I put the installation of drawings I just showed you, and I decided to go there, dress as a nun, and try to sell the things that nuns usually sell. And what it was funny is that so these are the things I was selling that I bought from the nuns. And people really was buying things. So it was really, really funny performance. And we had this group of friends. We get together and we call it the Cooking Nuns Club. So we dress like nuns, and these are the credentials we made. And then we get together and invent different dishes. They have to be delicious and original. We never made something that was made before. So we have to create new and delicious dishes every time we meet. This is some of my colleagues. For the closing of an exhibit, I organized this matching soccer game, and we dress as nuns. And actually, at the museum where we had the exhibit, is where this painting was. So she was right there also, and we play right there at the museum.